As we continue on in the series Cults and the Occult, we're going to be doing a lesson tonight, and then we'll finish up this lesson in a week or so. The question on the floor for now, and it's a question that many people, of course, have brought up in our world today, and that is Satan real? Is Satan real? And if he is real, then why did God create Satan in the first place? It's unfortunate that the devil has deceived many people into believing he doesn't exist, when most certainly he does exist. He is referred to as Satan. He's also called the devil in Matthew chapter 4 verse 1, as well as 1 Peter 5 verse 8. The devil is referred to as Lucifer in Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12. He's known as the serpent in 2 Corinthians 11 verse 3, as well as Revelation 12 verse 9. Yeshua calls him the prince of this world in the Gospel of John on several occasions. The Apostle Paul calls Satan the god of this world in 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4. Satan is also referred to as the prince of the power of the air. He's referred to as the wicked one. He's referred to as the one who deceives the whole world. And when he makes his entrance onto the human stage very early on, well, what did Eve see in that garden? Now, when I ask that question, there's a default that comes into the theater of your mind, and that is a tree, perhaps in this garden, and here comes this boa constrictor, or perhaps a python or whatnot, slithering down this branch with his forked tongue hanging out, so on and so forth. But that's not what you see in Ezekiel chapter 28. In Ezekiel chapter 28, God says, "You had the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The ruby, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl of the onyx and the jasper, the lapis lazuli, the turquoise and the emerald and the gold. The workmanship of your settings and sockets was in you. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. You were the anointed cherub who covers, and I placed you there. You are on the holy mountain of God. You walked in the midst of the stones of fire. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. By the abundance of your trade you were internally filled with violence, and you sinned. Therefore I have cast you as profane from the mountain of God, and I have destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom by reason of your splendor, and I cast you to the ground." Now, when you hear that 28th chapter in the book of Ezekiel, that doesn't sound like a snake. It sounds like a beautifully arrayed angel. And that angel came to Eve and deceived Eve. Now, oftentimes we're going to refer to Satan in the masculine. You'll hear me use the word he or him. In fact, even Yeshua says Satan is the father of all lies. But understand, Satan is not male, nor is Satan female. Angels do not have a gender. And God created Lucifer. God created Satan, but he did not create Lucifer as an evil being. However, the angels, just like mankind, were created as free beings. When we think of what is the root of all sin, well, you think of disbelief or unbelief in the Word of God. And we also understand that pride is the root of all sin. Well, how exactly did Satan fall? Well, there you have it. He rejected the Word of God, and he tried to become like God. In fact, Isaiah 14, verses 13 and 14, God says, "But you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of assembly in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. So God created Lucifer to be at the head of this angelic hierarchy. I believe mankind had not been created yet, and then I really wonder if Lucifer wasn't jealous of mankind. Why do I suggest that? Because it was mankind that would have a closer fellowship with God. Mankind would have a relationship with God that the angels just didn't have. Mankind would be able to reproduce. Angels cannot reproduce. The devil, therefore, has been trying to destroy mankind ever since mankind was created. And I think it was out of jealousy. Because we as human beings would have a deeper, more intense, more personal relationship with the true and living God that the angels just wouldn't have. So Satan has position. Satan has beauty. The wisdom, the intelligence of Satan is far beyond anything that you and I could possibly even imagine. And yet, at the end of the day, mankind would have the closer fellowship with God. And so, in the garden, that old serpent, the devil, approaches Eve, deceives Eve. Adam knew exactly what he was doing, and mankind falls. And ever since then, Satan has now taken the dominion over that very same thing that mankind should have had, and that is this world. The dominion mandate. It was to go to mankind. The earth was to be man's. And instead now it belongs to the evil one. So we understand Satan rules this world. And Satan has allies. In fact, he has had millions of allies down throughout history. Even today, there are millions of people all around the world who worship Satan. And we'll get into those things a little bit deeper as we get into the occult. Now, ultimately, in our near future, the entire world will worship the dragon. The world worships to a certain extent Satan right now, but in that day, during the tribulation, the entire world will worship the dragon. And who is this dragon? Revelation 13, verses 3 and 4. I saw one of his heads as if it had been slain, and his fatal wound was healed. And the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. They worshipped the dragon because he gave his authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? And who is able to wage war with him? And so you have this Antichrist, this beast which will be empowered by Satan himself. Now, the rebellion against God won't last very long. In the grand scheme of things, we understand that the Lord is coming back. He'll set up his millennial kingdom. There's going to be some kind of rebellion at the end of that millennial kingdom, but we know that that rebellion is not going to last too long. God will put an end to it. He mentions that, of course, Revelation 20, verse 10. So we already know that in the end of all of what we would call history, we as believers are victorious in Yeshua. We are in Him, we are secure in Him, and our victory is in Him. And so there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. But even though, here we are, we're not at the end of the age, and so we're not in the kingdom yet, and we're not in the New Jerusalem yet, we're still in a fallen world, and so then the question becomes, well, why has God allowed Satan to cause so much hurt? When you look around the world down through thousands of years, you see murder and sexual assault and child pornography and drug abuse and alcoholism and homosexuality and transvestites and disease and famine and war and on and on and on. Why? Why would a God that is so loving allow so much hurt? And really the answer is because God always wanted man to have freedom. Freedom to worship Him. In addition, this freedom that we have reveals His grace, His love, His power, and His holiness. Because when you must consider, if it wasn't for freedom, if it wasn't for the freedom that mankind has, given to us by God, then we would just be robots. And if we were robots, then all God would be to us is simply a creator. That's all he would be. The trees, the beasts of the field, to God, I mean, to them, it's God is just a creator. But we have free will. And we understand God, and there's a comprehension of him. And so now, not only is God our creator, but guess what? He's also our redeemer. And God is also our comforter. And God is also our savior. The beasts of the fields, the plants, the angels can't say that. Yeshua died on the cross for mankind, not for the angels. So we know Satan exists, and we know he has a legion. And Moses wrote about that legion in the Torah. Deuteronomy 32, verse 17, Moses writes, they sacrificed to demons who were not God, to gods whom they have not known, new gods who came lately, whom your fathers did not dread. So we know Satan is real. We know the demons are real. Moses wrote about them. David wrote about them in the Psalms. Psalm 106, verses 37 and 38. They even sacrificed their sons and their daughters to the demons, and shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and their daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with the blood. And yet we read these things, and you have people in this world who do not believe in a demonic realm. And they are very real. Demons are very real. They are evil, unclean spirits. They are fallen angels. They are servants of Satan. Now we understand there's only one devil. There's only one Satan. But he has a legion. He has a myriad. There are myriads of demons. And so with so many demons, and we have absolutely no idea how many, of course God knows, he created them. But it seems as if Satan's power is universal when it is not. Satan is not omniscient, he's not omnipresent, he's not omnipotent. He's not. There is a limit to his power. But because of all these demons, it seems as if his power is universal when it isn't. The reality and personality of demons are attested in all eras of history since the fall, as in the case of Saul and the spiritistic medium of Endor, in the case of ancient idolatry, of which demonism was the dynamic, in ancient divination and magic, and in ancient necromancy and modern spiritism. So, demons are incredibly intelligent, incredibly powerful, and they have the ability to derange the minds and the bodies of unbelievers. And you see these examples in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 12, verse 22. The Gospel writer writes, then a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute was brought to Yeshua, and he healed him so that the mute man spoke and saw. That's the power of these demons. They can get into an individual's mind, they can get into a body and actually cause and wreak havoc, not only in the mind, but also in the person, to the point where this individual was blind and couldn't even speak. Matthew 17, beginning at verse 14. When they came to the crowd, a man came up to Yeshua, falling on his knees before him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and is very ill. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him. And Yeshua answered and said, you unbelieving and perverted generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring him here to me. And Yeshua rebuked him, and the demon came out of him, and the boy was cured at once. So they have the not only the ability to enter into an individual, but they can certainly warp the mind, cause physical ailments, and then take an individual and, as you see in that passage, throw them into a fire, into the water, all of those things, trying to destroy human beings. The other thing that demons know is they realize what their predestined fate is. They know what their end is. And you see that in Matthew 8:28 and 29. When he came to the other side into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 men who were demon-possessed met him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way, and they cried out, saying, "What business do we have with each other, Son of God?" And here's the phrase, or the question. "Have you come here to torment us before the time?" You see that? Have you come to torment us before the time? They know exactly where they're going. When all is said and done, they will be cast into the lake of fire. Along with Satan, along with death, along with the Antichrist, along with the false prophet, and along with everybody not found in the Lamb's Book of Life. That is their end, forever. And they know that. So until that, they have somewhat of a conspicuous role, believe it or not, in the government of this satanic world system. You have demons who have authority over particular areas of the world, states, nations. And you have an example of that in Daniel chapter 10. In Daniel chapter 10, you have a demon called the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia. That's very important to know. Whenever there is a state, wherever there is a nation, and that state, that nation, is just infested with sin, it's going to be infested with demons. Flies find their way around garbage. Wherever there's garbage, you will find flies. Bees are attracted to flowers. Flies are attracted to garbage. And whenever you have sin, sinful people, a sinful population, you are going to have demons. And they're going to be myriads of them. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness." Where? In the heavenly places. In the heavenly places. So, whenever you have a land, and that land is fallen into sin, you're going to have more demons coming, and you're also going to see an increase in demonic possession. It should be no shock that in the ancient world, in that first century, during Yeshua's ministry, he was exorcising demons left and right. Because you were dealing with a repulsive, ungodly Greco-Roman culture. And just like flies to garbage, demons are going to find sin. So then the next question is, does demon possession still occur today? You can better believe it does. Now, a book that you'll hear me reference to a number of times in this series, written by, Dr. Walter Martin, who I can't imagine if there's anyone, or there was anyone that was more qualified to write about cults and the occult. There is a book called The Kingdom of the Occult. It's not exactly a book that you would want on your nightstand. It's not a book that you want to pick up and read before going to bed. There's much in there about the occult, demon possession, exorcism. We're going to get into that as well. Paganism, Kabbalah, mysticism, New Age, astrology, Satanism, witchcraft, Wicca. All of that is in that book. And again, it's not a book you just want to pick up and read before going to bed. And as I said moments ago, the first century saw a tremendous amount of demonic activity. The exorcising of these demonic spirits was one of the many miracles Yeshua did. Luke chapter 9, verse number 42. While he was still approaching, the demon slammed him to the ground and threw him into convulsion. But Yeshua rebuked the unclean spirit and healed the boy and gave him back to his father. when you really pause and think, we have 4 Gospels that tell us about the various miracles of Yeshua, and you have to wonder, those are the ones that are documented. How many other instances where Yeshua exorcised demons out of people that are not written down? We can only imagine how Yeshua was exorcising demons left and right. But not only him, but the apostles of the way also. They also had that ability to exorcise demons. Yeshua mentions that, Mark 16, verse 17. These signs will accompany those who have believed. In my name they will cast out demons. But then you also had those who were attempting to exorcise demons, who were trying to do so in the Lord's name, but they were doing it for selfish gain, and they were not saved. They were not saved. You have the recording of that given to us by Luke in the book of Acts. In the book of Acts, chapter 19, beginning at verse 11. Luke writes, God was performing extraordinary miracles by the hands of Paul, so that handkerchiefs or aprons were even carried from his body to the sick, and the diseases left them, and the evil spirits went out. But also some of the Jewish exorcists, who went from place to place, attempted to name over those who had the evil spirits the name of the Lord Yeshua. That's the key word, attempted. They attempted to name over those who had the evil spirits the name of the Lord Yeshua, saying, I adjure you by Yeshua whom Paul preaches. 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jewish chief priest, were doing this. And the evil spirit answered and said to them, I recognize Yeshua, and I know about Paul, but who are you? And the man in whom was the evil spirit leaped on them, and subdued all of them, and overpowered them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. This became known to all, both Jews and Greeks, who lived in Ephesus, and fear fell upon them all, and the name of the Lord Yeshua was being magnified. Now, we probably all heard that story, we've read that story, but notice where it took place. Ephesus. And I told you moments ago, there are certain cities in the ancient world, it's like in our modern world. If I was to say a city known for gambling, or Sin City, immediately what comes to mind is Las Vegas. There are certain cities that are just known for sin. Las Vegas is one of them. In the ancient world, like Las Vegas is known for gambling. In the ancient world, Ephesus was known for magic and witchcraft. It was known for that. It was a hotbed for it. So it's not surprising, again, that in Ephesus you would have a tremendous amount of demonic activity there. And you're going to have a many number of people who are possessed by these demons. So here you have an incident where you had those who really did not believe, but yet they were trying to do something in the name of the Lord Yeshua, and obviously it did not go well with them. That when we're talking about the demonic world, once again, and I will repeat this numerous times, it is not a world you want to play with. And keep in mind, the demonic world, it's all about deception. It is all about lies. It is all about appealing to your senses. What you see, what you hear, what you experience. And they will deceive you if you don't know the Scriptures.